What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JT Knows Things, and we are back to the Crypto Den. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to cover probably my favorite topic. What is crypto? Because a lot of people mess this up, and I don't want you having the wrong ideas about what this industry is, what this space is, what this technology is. Before I get into it, I'm going to come over to this screen, do some drawing for you to hopefully make some connections for you. I am Jake Tullis. I go by JT. I run a digital asset hedge fund called Bleeding Edge Capital out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I have 10 years of software development experience, and I leverage that experience to underwrite this industry, research it, and approach crypto or blockchain from a fundamentals approach. And I take a discretionarily long perspective, and I share it with you all to help you get educated on what this stuff is and hopefully make better decisions. And I'm very passionate about this stuff, and if you want to verify or look at my career, feel free to click the banner or just go to Google and type in Jake Tullis. You'll get tons of stuff back. I've been doing crypto. Crypto is essentially, we're going to call this crypto here. That's just a social paradigm. The word crypto does not mean anything outside of, it stands for encryption technology, cryptocurrency. It all refers to the word crypto, which is just encryption. Encryption is just like a password. So whenever you hear the word cryptocurrency, it's like password protected money is how you could think of it. And the reason why this entire industry is called crypto is because the first cryptocurrency was in fact an encrypted money like Bitcoin. So we got BTC over here. BTC is an actual cryptocurrency. It's an actual encrypted money. Bitcoin is one of 3 million. And I'll just show it to you guys. Or 2.4 million. Apologies. There are 2.4 million tokens, 800 exchanges. Bitcoin is one token of millions. And it has a unique property of trying to be a currency. But what you don't know, most likely, is that 99% of the other tokens do not want to be money. They are not trying to be money. People try to make a perspective that they're money. Really what you need to understand is crypto is just a slang term to describe blockchain. You might ask, what is blockchain? That is a database, a data theory. So right now, the way the world works is you have what's called a monolithic structure, which means Amazon. Let's say this whole thing is Amazon. The website, the user, the website. So this is like your login, first name, last name, password, email, whatever. The website, you give that information or put that on the regional server that it gets stored to, the long-term storage of that data. Everything essentially is owned by Amazon. One company, one stack, one vertical design. And this is how databases and data storage and data architectures always worked. You just assume that every node is ran by the same company and that they all have permissions and you have security protocols between them, but they all are owned by one company and all the data is stored in this thing, node to node to node to node to node, right? Sequentially. Well, blockchain comes around and says, what if we had a website at the center of all these different computers? Blockchain is, instead of having it all owned by one company, the token incentivizes volunteers for profits or strangers to go get their own computer, plug it into the wall, and support this network, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is crypto and is a blockchain. You can't have crypto without blockchain, but you could have a DLT, which we'll get into. Blockchain is a type of DLT. You can have tons of different DLTs without blockchain or crypto. So this is a very complex thing, but it's computer science, guys. I'm doing my best. For now, all you need to know is instead of having that vertical, structure here that was Amazon, we've just made all of those computers decentralized, ran by random person A, random person B, random person C, D, E, forever. Ethereum has 600 something thousand computers doing this. So Bitcoin has, I think, a little less. Either way, you get the idea. No one owns it, and you might own the hardware, but you are basically paying the electric bill to get Bitcoin back that you then can go sell elsewhere. And the token is what incentivizes the network and makes all of us, well, it incentivizes people to go out and support the network, and it just keeps feeding. This is called a network effect, right? If I go and put $1,000 on a device and I make 1,500 year one, by year 3, I'm gonna have 2 devices, then 3, then 4, and all I have to do is just continuously reinvest to make money myself, and then the network only gets better. It gets more decentralized, more secure, and all this other stuff. So what crypto is, it's a slang term to describe a different way to build networks. That's all it is. That's what crypto is, guys. It's not a scam. It's simply a new way to build a network. And it was made possible because of SHA-256 encryption, which came out in 2003 by the NSA. After 5-6 years of tinkering, Bitcoin comes out using SHA-256 for the first time, and that basically allowed all of this to happen, where I can trust Bitcoin because it's so encrypted that no one can get to it. I can put my money on that network and not worry about it being taken, not worry about it being compromised, right? Because in a decentralized network, you would need 51% of every computer. The more devices, the more secure, the more devices you'd need. And then even if you got access to 51% of all the computers across the globe, from Paraguay to America to Europe, wouldn't matter, you then would need to basically solve the password or decrypt inside of a block, which is 30 seconds, 12 seconds, 5 seconds. So the password changes every block that is made. And it's the most secure place in the world. That's the biggest misconception. If you lost your crypto or got scammed, that's a different thing. You gave your private keys to someone and they took your stuff willingly because you gave them consent to do it. If you never give away your private keys, no one can touch your stuff ever. I promise. It is the safest place, and it's the coolest thing that we've built, I think, in software for a while. It's really important you understand the kinds of tokens that can exist on a blockchain network. See how we're talking now? We're not saying which cryptos are going to pump. I'm going to tell you what these things are, tell you the facts, and do my best to keep it simple so you actually understand this stuff. On a blockchain network, there are a lot of different tokens. Tokens are basically like files. You could think of them as files squared. They are just like files on a file management system, like that little folder you click, drop a Word document into a folder, basically like that. Tokens are files in between nodes, and it coordinates all of the nodes on the network through different mechanisms. They're all different. Over here, we're going to go into utility tokens, security tokens, governance, assets, stablecoin, and DeFi tokens. There are more, and inside of these tokens, it gets more complex. There's standards, right? There's a 20, that would be a fungible token, a 20 standard. You can think of an ERC20 token. You've probably seen that in your wallet if you've been in DeFi at all. That's a 20 token standard of a fungible asset token for Ethereum. So it does get more complex. We're just going to stick to the high level stuff though, okay? Make it simple for you guys. First, we have a utility token. That is genuinely just one, it's what my fund invests in. That's where I like to put my investors' capital. I think it's the most effective token to get returns on, okay? Mainly because you can anticipate the goods and services on a blockchain network. You can go look at the total market cap of those goods and services, come up with a valuation model of kind, and then understand the supply and demand metrics around that token. If you anticipate demand will go up and it has a fixed supply for that resource which demand will go up for in the future, like pricing feeds, like if you believe there's going to be more decentralized applications that need cross-chain price feeds, Chainlink's demand is only going to go up in the future for the Ethereum virtual machine. You need to buy Link to get access to those data feeds. Therefore, it's a utility token. Therefore, if you buy the supply of Link prior to that demand surge, you will see a lot of yield from that. The next type is a security token. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing. All right, back to the content. So you could basically think of this almost like private equity, but just from a perspective of ownership, and that's really it. You could use NFTs. The 721, ERC 721 is a great example. That's an NFT. It's a type of token. That would be a good security token. Governance tokens, as shown here, that is purely just a token that exists on a blockchain network that if you hold it in your wallet, you can vote in the DAO that will give you weight. You have the Ethereum Foundation, Ether, the asset. You can't even participate in votes unless you own a certain percent, and then your weight of your vote is directly correlated to how much tokens you have. So like, I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head, but let's just say there's 1 billion Ethereum. Vitalik owns 10%. That's 100 million Ethereum. When he votes on an EIP, an Ethereum Improvement Proposal, he will carry 10% of the vote. The whole idea is that you use governance tokens to get everyone on the same page. If I had 10% of a protocol, my net worth is tied to it. Why would I vote to harm it? That's why we all have skin in the game. And that's a really cool function of a governance token. Asset tokens, you can think of that as a token that's representative of a real world asset. So like if I had $1 million of gold, I then put that somewhere, I verify it with a blockchain, say, yep, this is it. We have a camera streaming it, whatever it is, this is the gold, this is where it's at, boom. And you issue a token, maybe it's $1 for 1 million tokens, and then you could literally buy a fractional share of that gold by buying the token. That would be an example of an asset token. A stable token is just like USDC. You put $1 in, they issue $1 worth of token out. It's 1-to-1. There's different types of stable coins, but in general, this is a way to put cash on a blockchain so it's sitting there as dry powder. That way you could easily swap out of your stable token into a utility token or an asset token for yield or for returns or for investing or purely because you would like to. And then finally, you have DeFi tokens. These are tokens that when used, you're basically renting for a very short period of time the infrastructure that a whole community built. So you could think of that as Cake. That's a great example. PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap is a decentralized exchange, kind of like Coinbase, but it is completely decentralized, meaning a community built it and owns the code. It sits on top of Binance and is used as an interface to buy BSC tokens, or just tokens no different than Ethereum, the ERC20. You can do the same thing on Pancake, okay? You could buy BSC20, Binance Smart Chain 20 tokens. These are fungible tokens, meme coins, whatever you want to call them, and some are legitimate projects as well. You can just connect your wallet, use Pancake's exchange. In that process of you doing that on Binance, you're going to use a little bit of Cake to make the transaction happen. I mean, those are all the different types of tokens. You're probably thinking, oh, wow, I didn't know there was so much to this. It gets crazier. Okay, even inside of these categories of tokens, there are a multitude of standards. So these are very complex things, but I do my best to bring it to you. All you got to really think about is some of these tokens are going to capture value and others are not. The governance token, the security token, the stable token, they're not going to be in between a transaction. Okay, they're used to monitor, they're used to federate, they're used to control as best as they can a blockchain or the resources on a blockchain, but the actual economics of crypto do not apply to those kinds of tokens. The idea is that we're going to take resources and we're going to put it on a network and we're going to use encryption to create a trustless environment so we can create equity online, which is new. The reason why it's new is up until now, someone bought the hardware, pays for the electricity that goes into everything that allows the internet to work. Either the government or a private company, it doesn't matter. It's a free service, but you're giving them your data for them to monetize, to pay for the hardware, to give you the storage for your kid photos. And that's how it goes. But in blockchain, we all contribute. So there's someone out there that went and put maybe $2 or $3 grand into a computer, plugged it into the wall, downloaded the Bitcoin software, starts mining the network. That gives Bitcoin the hardware and the electricity it needs to function. When you use Bitcoin, you're renting that block, or I guess you're purchasing the block that the network creates. right? And when you do that, you're kicking a little bit of that Bitcoin back to the people that created this environment that you just used. It's a completely different way of thinking how the internet works, and it's a better way for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, security. Because if one company has all of your stuff and that company makes a mistake, all of your stuff is gone. In Bitcoin, it's impossible to take down Bitcoin right now. Quantum might be able to do it in the future, but as of right now, it is impossible. It is the safest place to store data. And I can't think of better data to store than your life savings, your retirement. You know, even the government can't take it from you. Like they'd have to take your keys. It's a very powerful technology. Understanding these tokens, understanding what you should avoid and should be purchasing or not purchasing for investment and yield. Hopefully this was helpful. Cryptocurrency, it suggests that it is a money, and it simply is not. Calling crypto money or a currency is a gross misappropriation for what this actually is. That is a matter of what. The how is a different answer. Crypto can be used as money, but that's not what it is. If you have a hammer, right, I wouldn't call it a weapon unless you used it to kill someone. Otherwise, it's a tool. The difference, it's a technology. It's software. And when you buy a token, it's like you're investing in a startup company. You are your own venture capitalist in this world. And it's specifically a software company that is doing something, or a software protocol or community. So I'm going to show you some screens. We're going to walk through that concept. Let's get into it. The definition of money. I figured that's probably the smartest place to start, yeah? Here you can see the actual definition of money is a current medium of exchange. That is literally the first few words, a current medium of exchange. Let me ask you this. Have you guys bought coffee with Bitcoin, with Dogecoin, with Solana, with ETH, with XRP? No, you haven't. Yet, those things have trillions, hundreds of billions of dollars in them. It is a series of smart contracts, blockchains, Web3, it's a lot of things, and we're going to go into all of that. First, I want you guys to understand crypto is a technology. Specifically, a cryptocurrency or a token is just a file on top of its own system, okay? And that system uses a database called blockchain. Blockchain is what allows crypto to even exist. You wouldn't have crypto without blockchain. That means crypto is a technology. Now, a blockchain, very simply, is a series of computers that is scattered across the globe. No different than like Amazon's data warehouses or Walmart's or any of these other companies. The biggest difference is it's owned by people like you and me. It's owned by a community of strangers, volunteers for profit, compared to being owned by the massive corporations. Now, I'm not much of a social activist, right? I believe in capitalism. I'm not saying this for hoorah. There's an actual advantage to that, being there's no single point of failure. Just recently, we've had multiple outages. Multiple. We had CrowdStrike in the summer. I remember I was at the airport. Okay, that was scary. Like, no flights were showing. Didn't know if I could get home. Then we had Amazon, Facebook. In my lifetime, I have seen apps that I interact with every day go down to one issue, and billions of people are affected. In blockchain, that's not possible because every single person owns their own device, which means you would have to break into 51% of the entire network. Bitcoin has over 1 million miners, so you would have to get access to 510,000 plus devices. And then you would have to break an encryption, which they talk about here, that is SHA-256. SHA-256 is an encryption method that would take the best computer we got right now 10,000 years to break. And you have 10 minutes until the password changes. You have 30 seconds on Ethereum and even less on Solana. So what you have is this blockchain technology allows all of us to safely put our bank accounts online, which is crazy because you would never put your bank account on Facebook. But with blockchain, you actually could using wallets. Wallets are anonymous, so it's just a long string of characters. You don't know who it is, it's just that's an account. And then you can put money in, take money out, and we can transact with one another without having to trust one another. That's basically what blockchain is. That's what crypto is. Now, the second thing that you need to understand is blockchain, not only is it functionally what I just described, it is also changing how the internet functions this moment. And look at the source of this. World Economic Forum from February of 2022. They wrote this, talking about the transition. So Web 1, we could only talk to computers. Web 2, we could talk to each other. And in Web 3, we can transact with each other, literally stripping the need for centralized people, institutions, trusted intermediaries to exchange value, which is paramount. Think of all the third parties you deal with to exchange value. If you've ever bought a house, car, anything significant of a decent size, or taken out a loan for anything, investing, doesn't really matter. Think of all the third parties you have. I mean, there's multiple people, there's multiple entities. Another little caveat that a lot of individuals don't know about is there are 2 steps to a transaction. There's the message, hey, Jake wants to send you $100. When that message goes out, my ledger, my personal ledger on Venmo says minus 100, and yours says plus 100. Venmo doesn't actually send the money and do anything for a day or 2 days. You'll probably see the notification, hey, Venmo finally took your money, right? There's the message, then settlement. And with blockchain, they're the same thing. So you get almost instant settlement. You're limited by the physics of reality. How fast can light travel through cables up to a satellite and back? Whatever it is. Latency is literally the only thing that will delay a transaction with blockchain. So World Economic Forum wants the entire financial system tokenized. They want everything on chain. That is Web 3. They're talking about it right here. So crypto is a technology. It's also a transformative concept that is genuinely changing how the internet functions. And then I have another little bit more detailed pick for you guys. But this is basically the difference between all of them. So we have right here, if you're using the internet, you're just storing information. All a computer could do is read. And then it could read and write. So now I can store information, someone else can look at it and do something with that information. And that's what we're actually doing right now. YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. It's genuinely just me sharing information, you interpreting it, and then even interacting with it. But it's all about the transfer of information. Back in the day, Web 1, who transferred information between us? Trusted third parties. Newspapers, magazines, TV, media. In Web 2, who does that now? Individuals like me right now, or Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is far more successful than any of the media outlets before him because of Web 2. And the same thing is going to happen with Web 3, all because of blockchain. Except instead of information, we're dealing with value, which is a really strong and hard concept, but I mean literally anything of value. That's what Web 3 is. There's over $340 trillion of value in the world, from derivative products to real estate to debt, credit, equity. I mean, it's incredible. All of that will be tokenized, all of it. And none of that means crypto is money. In fact, if I go to, I'm just going to pull this up too, because I feel like this is where, if you don't know what this is, CoinMarketCap, this is like Yahoo Finance of crypto. This is exactly where you would go to look at the markets. They have basically tons of different indicators that I actually do use as a professional. I like knowing that pretty much everyone is scared. I mean, they are scared shitless, guys. This is usually a great time to buy when this is in the red. It's a really bad time to buy when it's in the green. The altcoin season looks at a bunch of different things, mainly Bitcoin dominance. How close are we to all the alts pumping? And you may not know what alts are. Alts are everything other than, I would even consider, these two majors here. They're getting hammered. But on this screen, if you start reading these things, you'll quickly realize that none of it is money. Even Zcash, it is a ledger or a blockchain that allows you to do the same things Bitcoin does, everything I just described, but it's completely anonymous. You can't even track the wallets using zero knowledge proofs, which is a technology. Can you use Zcash as money? No, I can't go into Starbucks and use Zec to get a coffee. Not yet. And that's not really the future any of this stuff is marching towards. The future we're marching towards is Web 3. So if I go look at Chainlink, for an example, which I talk about on this channel a lot. I'm gonna pull up their website and their white paper. Powering the on-chain finance economy. Chainlink is the industry standard Oracle platform. Look at their partners. What they're doing is they are moving data from Web 2 to Web 3. You wouldn't use Chainlink to buy coffee. I keep coming back to this. It's not money. Crypto is not money. This is like an API, except they're called oracles. It's a series of smart contracts, which we haven't gotten into yet. This is an example. I'll explain what smart contracts are soon. But it is essentially a set of smart contracts that create an oracle. That oracle automates data transfer. If I have a bunch of data that I want on Ethereum and I want to sell it to Ethereum developers, I would use Chainlink. So Chainlink is used as a utility token to basically stand up markets between people that have data and people that want data. It's not money. It is a token that represents goods and services on its own platform. That's a technology. And then if I were to go down even further into all of this stuff here, into all of these, it's a similar story, guys. All all these things solve different problems than money. Just straight up, that's how it is. That's the truth. Now, smart contracts. These are probably the hardest thing to understand, but it further proves my point that crypto is a technology. Smart contracts are a series of programmatic code that basically allow something to happen without any user input. The first example that I can think of is a vending machine. Okay, that is a computer, and when you put in numbers into that machine and you give it its money, so you put in $2 and you go A4, it now has all of the information it needs to then give you your food, and you can trust that transaction. It's a one-way transaction, but you don't need to tell it what you want. You already did that when you started the transaction. Smart contracts are the same way. If you have all the inputs for a function, you can program it, and then you can automate it, and it gets rid of a ton of need for people in between anything, from data getting put onto your app to liquidity between liquidity pools, between pricing on DEX aggregators. The list is endless, and I get into all of that on this channel. That's why you just hit a subscribe, so you know what all this stuff is. But what this allows basically anyone to do is build automated processes directly into their app, website, whatever they're building, and make our lives that much easier, which again means crypto is not money. And when I'm talking to advisors and high net worth individuals, it's literally the first thing that I have to combat. If I ask you, is crypto money? Almost 99% of people are going to say yes. I have yet to meet someone that will give the caveat of it could be money, but it's not money, because that's really what I'm looking for. That's what I want you guys to walk away with. Yes, it can be used as money, but no, it is not money. What and how? Full circle, guys. And I feel like that's by design. I just explained to you how the institutions that sit between us when we're transacting, no different than how media stood between us in our conversation across the globe. The same thing would be true for transacting value, which means BlackRock, JP Morgan, Bank of America, State Street, Vanguard, all the people that run the world are behind. We don't need them to trust one another now because we have the blockchain. It's a liberating technology. It gives us the freedom to escape whatever system they've built for us. Literally, all of our content is user generated now. I mean, people my age, we go to TikTok and we do our own research. Or we go to Facebook, or we go to Google, we go to YouTube, we go to videos exactly like this, and we try to develop our own opinions. This is going to be my slogan moving forward. Crypto is not money. It's so much more. 10 things I wish as a beginner. As a brand new crypto homie, what do I need to know? The very, 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 very first thing that you need to know is blockchains are databases. That's all they are. I wish I knew that when I first got into it. You know, as someone with a software background, that fact helped me really look at this stuff differently. Bitcoin is a database. Ethereum, a database. Solana, a database. Double clicking on that, just diving a little bit deeper. The main difference between Web 3 or blockchain and Web 2, or what a traditional database would look like, is the fact that all of the different computers that make up a network are owned by individuals instead of one singular company. So a database could have multiple states across multiple nodes across multiple countries, but if they're all owned by one company, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, etc., they are still centralized and suffer from this concept of a single point of failure. Meaning, if I get one node, your whole network is compromised. There's tons and tons of examples of this. Billions of records have been lost to these single points of failures across the private sector. There's more security with blockchains. And another really cool idea is that since we are using a bunch of other people's computers, and they aren't just server boxes, they have specific functions, and people have built different types of stuff on top of the database, like smart contracts. There's cooler functionality with blockchains as well. For the first time ever, we have basically a decision as a developer to submit data to a blockchain and execute on a blockchain, which is just a different kind of database. This database would allow me to offer such cooler experiences to my users. That frame of mind made me understand that blockchains, crypto, will be obfuscated or hidden from the user experience in the fullness of time. Like, you're not going to know which wallet and all this other stuff. You'll just have a user with a handle no different than Venmo or something like that that's tied to a wallet. The wallet is just the function of the database. So eventually there's going to be interfaces on top of all this stuff, and no one's going to even know that they're on Ethereum or Solana or anything else, which also means all this stuff needs to be interoperable. So it really helped frame my perspective as a fund manager when looking at this space and as an investor personally. The second thing is understanding the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that comes back to the blockchain trilemma, where you really can only solve for two things. So you can pick two sides of this triangle: security, performance, and centralization. You could have a really secure and decentralized blockchain, but its performance will suffer. You could have a highly performant blockchain, but its decentralization will suffer, and so on and so forth. So you have to decide. Well, on top of that, you also have this concept of smart contract functionality. So the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think a beginner maybe understands Bitcoin. The next step is the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is genuinely just the smart contract functionality. There are teams trying to add that to Bitcoin, but for now, let's just go over it. I actually made a great video on that, by the way. You should definitely go check it out. Ethereum allowing smart contracts basically takes all of the functionality of Ethereum and then adds this idea to automate business processes. The best way I could think of it is a vending machine. A vending machine actually has a little computer in it. It has all the inputs it needs for the desired output, meaning the user can put the money in, it can tell you, which cork needs to spin, A6, and then whatever's in there will fall out. The computer needs all of the inputs. It needs the money, it needs the location of the item, but after that, it can do it all on its own. The same is true for smart contracts. If the user's information and all of the data for the transaction is available to the database, you can automate the process of whatever that transaction entails. A quick example is Aave. Aave is a bank that is a protocol. They did 360 billion last month, and it is a protocol. It is an internet protocol. Donald Trump himself used it to build his own bank called World Liberty Financial. Aave automates the borrowing and lending. So it uses smart contracts to pair a borrower and a lender, and it creates its own little agreement inside of that smart contract. And if both accept the terms, the loan is done. I have $1 million of USDC, you have $2 million of Bitcoin. I'll give you 50% LTV, so I'll give you the full million, so that's half of your 2 million, plus 10% over 12 years. If that works, the other guy's like, yeah, I'll do that. Click, puts his Bitcoin in an escrow wallet. Other guy puts his capital into the Bitcoin wallet, and then whenever he doesn't make a payment, comes out of the Bitcoin. It's all automated. You can get a loan in 2 to 3 minutes on Aave over this concept of smart contracts. And that's the chief difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Third thing would be the difference between a warm, hot, and cold wallet. A cold wallet is basically where you would put your tokens that is not connected to the internet at all, and it's in like a little USB stick or a little square device, but essentially it is something that you put in a safe or a safety deposit box, and you keep paper copies of the keys to access that USB stick, and usually some kind of biometric as well. Where like a warm wallet is a wallet that is kind of, so like MetaMask would be a warm wallet. If you're not opening the wallet, you're not on the network, on the internet per se, but it is stored, publicly on a database that, those tokens are there and all that stuff. So you need to actually hit approve and send and sign transactions through that, but it's not like online all the time. And then a hot wallet would be a wallet in a centralized exchange where it's on 24/7 and it's, your crypto is in the exchange's wallet. And, there are pros and cons to all of them. Cold wallet, generally speaking, is for someone who I think is a little bit more experienced, that understands the weight of keys and how important this is, and they're confident that they're not going to lose it. That's a big one. A warm wallet is for someone I would say is intermediate. Someone that is doing DeFi stuff that needs liquidity on chain to trade and do things and connect to different exchanges. I would not park long-term money in a warm wallet, although I have recovered warm wallets, 5 years plus, and the tokens are still there. So it is still a good option. It It's just, you could lose the tokens if you don't know what you're doing, you connect to something you shouldn't, or you leave the connection open, stuff like that. And then a hot wallet, I think, is for absolute beginners. You just get a Coinbase account, fund it, invest, and fall asleep on it. It's a public company. I personally have all my money in hot wallets as a fund manager. I don't want to custody my client money, right? I have that in a third party, Kraken. And personally, I like the idea of being able to connect to the internet anywhere and have access to my crypto and not have to worry about losing a cold wallet. Ever since FTX, people are hesitant to put their crypto on exchanges, but some of these exchanges are really legit. No downtime, 10, 11, 12 years now. I think their security and their, 9-figure security budget a year is better than what I personally could do. If I wanted to self-custody, I personally would be worried about losing access to it or someone finding it and things like that, or a tornado or a fire or something like that. So for me, personally, hot wallets where I go, but that is the differences between them. The fourth thing are going to be your keys. They're the most important thing in the world. They are random 12, 24, or sometimes 36 words that are case sensitive, and their order matters. And you cannot lose them ever, and you cannot disclose them to anyone ever. 2 paper copies, 2 different places. Someone you trust with your life knows where they're at, and that's it. That's what I recommend for that. The fifth thing would be scams are everywhere. I have definitely in my beginning days lost some crypto to me clicking something I shouldn't have. Nothing serious, because of this one tip that I always did as a software guy, paranoid. I will put the crypto I want to experiment with in a new wallet. It is my transactional wallet that I'll connect to things. So there's a test wallet, if you will, right? Always. That's what I do. So wherever you're storing your crypto in the wallet, whatever you want to play with, just move it to a different one, a new one, spin up a new one, and then keep that exposure minimal. I did that from the beginning, which helped me and saved me a lot, but I've definitely fallen to them. They're everywhere. They're getting craftier, they're getting better, especially with AI. So keep your eyes peeled. Some tips for that. Read the URL letter by letter. Spend the time. Emotionally, if you do not understand, you are worried, you're feeling some type of way about a message that you don't understand where it came from or what it could possibly mean, that is a scam. Almost always that is a scam. Ignore. The last one, it's a pig butchering scam. All of these comments in my videos that say, hey, thank you so much, David Perez, or whatever, like some arbitrary name, and they're all promoting them, and they're talking about a story about how this person made them all this money, changed their life. It's all a scam. Those are all bots. Those are all attempts at building your trust. Or women on dating apps that say they make all this money day trading on crypto, and they send you a link. All of that is a scam. It's all a scam. They build trust. You wire money, the money goes to their bank account, they show you a fake website, they manually update the database, make you think you're making all this money, when in reality, that's just not the case. You're just wiring them money, and then when you want to withdraw money, they say you got to pay taxes beforehand. It's not true. It's not. That's not how it works. Those are very, very important to pay attention to. The sixth thing I wish I knew is the difference between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange. When I first started, I thought Coinbase and SushiSwap were like the same thing. It's not the case. Centralized exchanges are companies with structures and licenses and things like that. They are connected to the banking system. Decentralized exchanges just use wallets, so you don't really have any corporate structure. They're one-way transactions. You mess it up, it's on you. You need a warm wallet to connect to it, like a MetaMask or something like that. There's a lot of nuances there that I wish I would have known. In general, if you're a long-term investor, I would stick to the sexes. If you're, intermediate to advanced, a warm wallet and then sending it to a cold wallet, if you're confident in your abilities to not mess that up, go for it. Again, I personally, as a professional veteran in the space, I spread my investments across multiple centralized exchanges, and I feel very confident. It'd be like having multiple brokerage accounts just in case one of the businesses goes out of business, or any of the brokerage accounts go out of business, or an exchange gets compromised in some way. That's how I prefer to do it. But if you wanted to self-custody, I would say the second option would be to use a MetaMask attached, go to a decentralized exchange with the least amount of slippage, best liquidity, and then buy what you want, put it in your cold wallet, and forget about it. That is another option. Those are two very distinct and different things. The seventh thing I wish I knew. Meme coins are casinos. I have lost tons of money to projects I thought were legit but were scams in the beginning. This is the toll of being a crypto guy or girl. 99% of them zero out in a year. only 1% get past 10 million, and 1% of that gets to a billion. So your chances are better literally doing anything else with that money. In my opinion, you should treat them like a casino. That's it. 5%, 2% of your crypto portfolio, and go have fun. That's your gambling money. But that's what it is. You should not go long on Fartcoin. Hopefully, it's not the first person to tell you that. In general, these things are not successful long term, or they're very rarely successful long term. Some are. That kind of kind of points to my number 8 item, which is long-term thinking. When I first got into crypto, a lot of retail does this. You get super excited, super wrapped up in the narratives. Especially, I mean, I was coming in a bull market in 17, so everyone in their mother's talking about it. Where if I would have just taken a 10-year outlook and I wasn't doing trading in, trading out, doing all this crazy stuff, and I would have just stuck to the fundamentals and bought and held, I would be a far wealthier man. It just is a reality. Having longer term thinking. I mean, it's 2025. The president of the United States has a DeFi application. If I would have held from 2017 all the way through to today, I would have made a lot more money. And that's why my strategy is discretionarily long. That's why I started a hedge fund. I'm making up for it by making better decisions now. So I would advise that you take a longer term approach to any investment, generally. Like any investment. My opinion, that is the best way to account for volatility, even in the stock market. The dot-com boom and crash, if you would have just held the tech companies, it's likely you would have still held on to Apple or Google. You know, if you were doing the research back then, you would still have some names that were relevant, and they would have made up for everything else that didn't hit. That's the general concept, and I've found a lot more success personally and for my investors with that approach. The 9th one would be how to transact. This is something that is not intuitive. I don't really see people giving these kinds of tips online, but it goes back to what I had said previously. You're going to want a test wallet. In that test wallet, you're going to send 10% of what you're going to eventually transact. So if you have $1,000, I would send 100 to a test wallet. I would send 50 from that test wallet to the target destination. Make sure it gets there. Make sure the databases, the ledgers are up to date, and that the value actually settled and that it's in that wallet before sending 90% to the test wallet, and then maybe 50% and then another 50%. I don't mind paying the extra fees. I want to make sure that the transaction goes well and that it is going exactly where I want it to. Additionally, you should read the first 8 and the last 8 of the wallet sending and receiving. It's an extra step. It does take a little extra time, but it is 100,000% worth it. Just is. I would do that to make sure that even before you send your test transaction, that you're actually pointing in the right direction. Too many people have lost crypto to the ethos from not doing these simple things. So I would definitely pay attention to that. And then finally, I wish I would have adopted in the beginning a more traditional approach to how I personally, and this is the final one, number 10, how I personally viewed this space. Time in the market is way better than timing the market. If I were to take the 40 best performing days of Bitcoin and got rid of it, it returns 12% a year. So if you're not in for those crazy rides up, you're missing a lot, and it is risky just to be out in general. I keep dry powder always in the fund and personally for the volatility. Like right now, we're down 12%. You can make money just by buying those little dips. But if you aren't mainly invested, you run the risk of missing crazy returns. The S&P is the same, but it's not as extreme because this market is much smaller. We're at 4 trillion and it conceivably could be 100 trillion by 2030, 2040. I have a whole video backing into that. Raoul Pal, one of the best macro analysts of our time, talks about it all the time as well. He's like, even if I'm 50% off and we hit 50 trillion, this is the largest transfer of wealth that we ever want to see. And I'm excited to be here. Hopefully you're excited to be here. You're definitely in the right place if you made it all this way and you're looking for videos like this from people like me. You're doing the work, you're doing the education, you're looking for content that is going to make you better. And I hope I helped you with that mission on this video. I really do. We have a spicy topic. It is debunking all of the dog that people circulate about crypto. Specifically, I want to cover all of the common myths that you may or may not believe, and it's going to be fun because I love torching bad ideas. is. Dogecoin going to the moon. If I go to Google and then we're just going to be like, yo, Dogecoin, how fast are you? Since it is a copy of Bitcoin, it is very slow. So what Dogecoin did is some dude, and I'm sure you all know the founder, I could care less about Dogecoin, it's actual dog. I just wanted to show you that it's shit, right? Whoever made this copied Bitcoin, changed some parameters of Bitcoin, released it with a picture of a dog instead of Bitcoin. Literally one for one, the same thing. Okay, whatever block number that was forked, he copy and pasted Bitcoin, added the dog, changed some fundamental things to it, like making it completely inflationary. You can just print Doge out of nowhere. So like, if the market cap is, let's just say, $1 billion, and the price goes to $1, the market cap would have to go 1 to 1 up to the dollar. But if they just release more tokens, the market cap will be diluted. I'm sorry, the price will be diluted. The circulating tokens will be diluted. So you need more money in for the price to go up because they keep diluting the circulating supply. That's something Bitcoin can't do, but Dogecoin can do. So he copied Bitcoin and actually made it worse. It's running on like 200 something devices, okay? Like computers that are owned by one entity, 70% of it. It does 33 transactions per second. So really think about that. 33 transactions per second. Even at its current congestion right now, which is like nothing, okay, compared to the entire internet using one currency on chain, 33 transactions a second, 10 minutes for finality. Let's just say 1 million people wanted to run through that. Let's just do that. Let's say there's 1 million people, 500. So if 1 million people wanted to do one transaction, just 1 million people, it would take 8.5 hours to clear. Now, let's just see how many transactions Visa processes. 639 million. Let's go back to the calculator. Let's do 8.41 times 639. We did it by 1 million previously. 5,000 hours. We'll say 5,400. 225 days. 255 divided by 12 though. There we go. 21.25 months. That is how long it would take to do 1 day of Visa. It is impossible. Impossible. It's impossible. Dogecoin can't do it. It's impossible. Not only that, it's far less secure than Bitcoin. Dogecoin is the hook. It's bad, okay? You thinking it's doing great is a myth. All you're seeing is price go up because of all the hope being poured in. How do you research crypto? The first place I start is going to be podcasts and Twitter. It's really that simple. The trick to podcasts and Twitter are the sources, the accounts, and the people behind the accounts and what they do. 90% of the stuff, I use Twitter just as a news alert. If you go to my following, you'll see I don't post on it. I don't even know how to use the frickin' thing. But when I listen to people on podcasts that I've very specifically spent years listening to and figuring out what the best ones are to listen to for crypto specifically, I literally have only followed people that are guest appearances that seem like experts that I then go to their website and research. And I'm going to do like a brief example. Apple Podcasts. I heard this gentleman, and you might know him, you might not know him, Raul Paul. He was a guest speaker on a podcast that I love. Bankless, they are Ryan and David. They have their own venture capital firm. They've been doing crypto since 2016. They're great guys. This was a guest appearance. I then go look into Raul Paul. Turns out he's a billionaire that runs a hedge fund, Real Vision. And you start just finding really, really successful people in this space. I listened to 6 podcasts, and it's the same thing that I'm about to show you on Twitter. I am listening for things that stick out to me. And the same things on Twitter right here. I've spent, like I said, a while making sure I'm following very credible sources. I see some, I'm just scrolling here. I'm just looking for something. That's Bitcoin, Filecoin, which I am a fan of. I'm a big fan of Filecoin. Here we go. I don't know what MetaPlanet is. And 443%, pretty good. Bitcoin strategy. So I would then just go to MetaPlanet. It's a public company. So it's a Japanese company that adopted Bitcoin. No big deal. We're going to keep going. Solana unveils details of second phase. Okay. So you can see here Cardano, they retweeted Swarm. I don't know what Swarm is. See, that's not something I'm interested in. Why? Because it's an app. I'm going to keep going. And I don't want to waste your guys' time, but This is literally someone that is raising millions of dollars and making decisions on behalf of investors. I'm telling you, this is where it starts. Listening to podcasts and paying attention to all my alerts from accounts that I trust. And the reason it's this way is because mainstream media doesn't understand this asset class. If I avoid the tinfoil, I think I'm avoiding the tinfoil, okay? Regardless of why, they spread misinformation like crazy about this asset class. So I have to go to people that actually understand it, that actually know, and they are on Twitter, and they are on podcasts, they are entrepreneurs, they are fund managers, they are experts in the field, and they are on those places because they too don't trust mainstream media, and they don't work with them because mainstream media wants nothing to do with them because they talk about this stuff. So you go through this stuff, and then you simply just start Googling, okay? And then one that I've been looking at a while is Tau. I found it on a tweet, and then I go look up the ticker on CoinMarketCap. Before I even do prices and charts and all of that stuff, I will go pull up their white paper and their GitHub, their website. This is their technical documentation. This is their design behind the system. I will read this. I don't know how much I'll be able to take out of it. I have 10 years of software development experience, and I've never gotten to the depth of the actual math that goes behind the algorithm. So, maybe I can get 30-40% first read and get a little bit deeper, 40, maybe 50-60% on the second read. Now, I have experience designing systems and everything else, so you may not get a lot. But making sure they have a white paper and making sure that it has references and you can go look up the author, that would be another thing. So if I go to LinkedIn and I go look for this gentleman, he's not even doxed on LinkedIn, right? Something to pay attention to. Their website looks good. It's glitchy. So let's then go look at our GitHub. And I talk about this a lot. We can go to Insights. This is their master branch. It should default there. This is like their total code base, if you will. This is good news here. A lot of their repos are being updated. They have 85 contributors. And then if I go to if you click Insights, it will give you a decent amount of data about the activity of the network. What I'm doing right now is looking at the actual developer community to make sure this is legit. It'll take some time. After you go through the white paper and the GitHub, making sure that there's actual activity, that it's a real network, there are real people contributing to it, all this other stuff, you can spend a lot of time in here, okay? Making sure they have a GitHub. All of that is what I do when I am scrolling Twitter and I see someone I trust talking about this new AI network like Tau. I want to better understand what it is. I don't take them at face value. I start doing my own research. After I go through the technical specs on the logical design and I go through the developer community, I then will see how much information about the network is out on, actually, I'll show you. I'll also go to, see this website, man. They got way too much scripting on that. It's taken way too long. And then I'll check to see what's going on with Dune, narrative tokens. And then here you can go look, look at this data, guys. You can go look at token prices, the supply, the concentration, there's just so much data here. But I don't see Tau. This is free, by the way, and public. Once you get to big boy status, you can link up an API and get this stuff dropped right into wherever you want. But I'll then go to Dune, and then I'll see what I can find out about the health of the token in terms of its liquidity, where it's at, how it's spread out. Then, if everything looks good from a technology perspective, the tokenomics, I then go to the team. I couldn't find the founder online, and then I'll go look for any contributors to the white paper, any people that are on the team, on the website, etc. If the team looks good, networks look good, system looks good, token looks good, I then go look at price. And I try to decide if we've got through all that and I'm excited, I like it, I then will figure out if it's a good time to buy or not. And then traditional finance steps in a bit. Some charts, but not much, guys. I'm a fundamentals guy. I want to make sure this network is healthy and that people like building on it and that it's likely an entrepreneur will use it when they build their dream. And I'm investing in the likelihood that more and more dreamers will use what's in my portfolio, because this stuff is software. If I wanted to make an on-chain TikTok, I would need to render video files Render's a great option for that. I would need to store all the data for my users in a decentralized way where they still own the data. So Filecoin could be good for that, or Arweave. These are things that you need to build. If you break open Facebook, like a Russian nesting doll, Facebook's the first layer. Pull it up, boom. DNS, because Facebook.com only exists through the protocol DNS. Open it up again. SMTP. That's the only way they can send files from server to server that allows Messenger or a comment as an example, and so on and so forth. So most apps have 5, 10, 15 protocols that are on the internet, public, that they use to build the website that we all know and love. And my job is to understand what are the most likely protocols to be adopted in the future for the next wave of applications coming our way, either through enterprise adoption, like them saying, oh, it'd be so great if we had a loyalty program with NFTs. Well, where are we going to do that? Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Cosmos, Polkadot, XRP, XLM. There's so many options. Why would they pick one? And that is my job, and that is your job. As someone trying to understand what this stuff is, you're trying to invest long term, you got to understand what it is, and you got to understand how likely it is someone could use it in the future. You have coin market cap. You come to Tau, and you're like, all right, I see everyone talking about how it's like the future of AI. All right, you look at the price, you're like, wow, it's down big. Personally, someone that buys long term, if you believe in the project, right? Like, this is a perfect time to buy. I mean, it's down 65%. When you see a market cap that is lower than the FDV, that means that the tokens are locked up. The max supply means it's a fixed tokenomic model, which is great. We like those. And then the supply that's circulating, the problem with this token would be that, only about 40% is out there, meaning the team owns a lot of tokens and they could potentially dump. Maybe that's why the price has fallen off so much. I don't know. Then when you're in GitHub, if you go to the insights and go to contributors, you're going to get an idea of how active the code base is. This project is, 2 billion. It's been around for not very long. The token, at least, has been around since April of 23. I'm sure the team's older. And that's another thing. If you can access their Twitter as well, this is where you could potentially find the team, or you can go to LinkedIn. It's usually where I would like to go. This is a good thing that the data is taken this long. That means there's a lot of contributors. So on here, I can go to the company and try to find. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing. All right, back to the content. So they don't really have much of a presence on LinkedIn, but we can go see if they have any jobs open. 2 to 10 employees. So they don't have anything on there, okay? And then another place I like to go is DeFi Llama. So this is the kind of data that can tell you that it's a pretty active code base. A commit in a month. So just so you guys know what a commit is like someone suggesting edits to a Word document, but it's a code base instead. And they're doing hundreds of commits a month. That's a lot. That's a great bit, especially since, this is a decentralized network, right? These are contributors. Look at this. They've been building it since 2020. The token dropped in 23. So the team is at least 4.5 years old, and they've been growing in developer contributions. We're at 119 developer contributions, and price peaked when it was down to the 20s. That is some inverse correlation. I'm not saying these are trending up. We'd want to see another month of this. If it's trending down, if people are losing interest and they were just here to build because they thought they could get rich. That's basically what you can determine from there. And then in DeFi Llama, they may not have Tau. I'll show you this is kind of cool though. If you go to fees and revenue, simple, here we go. Tau. No, they don't have it. Virtuals is one that people are talking about a lot right now. Yeah, they don't have it. Either way, you could take a look at some of this stuff, the volume on different things. You can also get a great view for fees and revenue on Ethereum. Here we go. Look at that. Aave. 300 million, Uniswap 600 million. That's pretty cool, right? You can get a lot of data, my point is, from some of these tools, okay, that can tell you about the project. Sometimes they're not on them, and that's just how that works. Then the white paper is a document that their technical leadership would produce to explain how it works. I picked the advanced stuff because I have a background in software. I am not a mathematician, so some of this crazy data doesn't help me, but understanding the logic behind how they reach consensus is important to me, because there are bad decisions teams can make that make them vulnerable, and I will read through here to try to find vulnerabilities in their architecture, which might be a little advanced, but either way, DeFi Llama can give you a lot of great data about, I mean, you can just see where Rapid BTC is staked for $1 billion of loans. Essentially, this is interesting. People, either way, I'm going to get wrapped away. Essentially, you find a token, you hear about it, go to CoinMarketCap, type it in, find it. If it's not on CoinMarketCap, it could be on dextools.io. They will cover really low market cap tokens as well. And then from there, see all the links out of those two interfaces or those two websites. Explore the links to the GitHub, see if people are actually building on it. Try to find the token on DeFi Llama to see if the network's making any money. If it's not on DeFi Llama, that means their revenue and their fee switch and, you know, how the token is making money just is not public information yet. So that's a risk, right? You try to find the team on LinkedIn, and if they're not discernible, that's a risk. I'm not saying Tal's a bad investment, but those two things definitely are considered in the analysis of, do I want to own this long term? I mean, I don't even know who the founder is. I can't even find the people's faces attached to it. And I didn't dig very deep, but you get the idea. Spend time trying to understand what these things are. 5-10 hours on a token will make you an expert very quickly. It's kind of crazy. But focus time. Just sit down and chip away at it. Do your best to understand the investment from a first principles perspective. What actually am I buying? Understand it. And that's why you subscribed. That's why you tuned in here. We cover nothing but just facts, education, knowledge on what this technology is and how amazing it can be for your life. We need to know how to not get scammed. Crypto is filled with it. I have gotten so many distress messages from the community and just from crypto people in general begging for help. It's really sad. It breaks my heart. So I want to spend some time today talking about what exactly scams look like and how to invest in crypto or just research crypto in good faith, knowing that you are safe. I want to show you something here. This is a TikTok that I had made. We got a lot of views on it, which I'm very happy about. You know, thousands of comments. This right here, Dan Diggo, thank you so much for helping these people. You're a legend. That's a scam. Whenever you see somebody promoting someone else, here we go, look at that. Same user, shouting it out. This is a scam. This is likely a bot or someone controlling a bot that is basically going to all of my videos, and they basically comment, hey, thank you, David Chavez, or, you know, some random account. And then if you reply, they'll DM you, and then you'll talk to this guy, which is still them, and they'll tell you about a platform or a website where they're making crazy money in crypto. And then as soon as you go in there and you give them your bank details or your wallet, you give them anything, you're done. It's called a pig butchering scam. Take a look at this. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing. All right, back to the content. How to spot and report a scam. Pig butchering. An investment scam where fraudsters gain the trust of victims over time. They have an entire organization to protect you from these things. How do they work, right? Dating apps, social media, basically they social hack you, they gain your trust, then they get you on a fake website or trading platform. And the second you deposit capital into them, it's gone. What you've effectively done is you've wired your real money to a real account, right, that is theirs. And then they have a database that they just type into, and it looks like your money went into their website. They're going to make it look like you made money. They're going to add $2,000 a week. They're going to just update the database. It takes them 2 minutes. And then they're going to say, for you to get your profit, you got to pay taxes on this money. So you're going to wire more money to their real account, and then they're going to come up with another reason that you can't get your money, right? And they're going to keep doing that until you've wired them all of your money to get this fake money, literally, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, every dollar you've sent them is gone. That's what a pig butchering scam is, okay? You want to avoid those, like, at all costs. Honestly, if you see anyone getting promoted in any chat stream, completely ignore it. The next thing is reading URLs. So if they can't social hack you, they might drop you a token that when you click it, it's like, click here for blah, blah, blah. And then when you do that, it's going to install a keylogger. So the next time you touch your app and enter your keys, it gets sent to them. Then they're going to drain your wallet. It could be an email. It could be a text. It could be a voicemail. They got AI now, okay? People are getting scammed by these awful people impersonating their family members through social media data with AI, voice and all, giving calls and saying they need money for this, that, and the third, okay? Or they need their keys or whatever. You basically want to act like every single person wants to take your stuff. And the best thing to do is to avoid using obscure sites in general. Google everything before you get on there and put scam ? After it. Read every letter in a URL. These are things that you can do to protect yourself from these situations because it's destroying people. North Korea made almost $3 billion last year from these kinds of things. I mean, half the time it's North Korea even doing this. They could have AI automating this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. So not only are they ripping you off, you're also funding North Korea. I mean, it's disgusting what's happening. And you all need to take these things seriously. If you just stick to a major exchange like Coinbase or Bitstamp or Robinhood and Coinbase are public companies. They have shareholders. You know, they're regulated by the SEC. They have insurance products on your crypto. They protect your keys. They do all this stuff. So if you're just a beginner, you don't know, like if you're at risk, let's just say that you're at risk of making mistakes like this, the best place for your money, energy, and time are on these centralized exchanges. Watch out for the pig butchering people. Watch out for North Korea. Until next time, take care of one another.